Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest news in sports that have been related to the coronavirus. A rumor that I forgot to discuss on yesterday's show. Some classic games that will be aired within the next couple days, and the one that was aired last night. The 2-hour Super 9 episode of The Masked Singer, 2018 MLB ReDraft, and my top 10 MLB games of 2019. All right, I'm going to start with the latest sports news surrounding the coronavirus. The biggest one that's come out in the last 24 hours is that the Wimbledon has been canceled. This does not surprise me whatsoever. It was supposed to be held from, I believe, June 29th to July 7th, maybe July 8th. But, yeah, it was one of the biggest tennis events of the year, obviously. Patrick McEnroe called it the Super Bowl of tennis. I think this is a devastating blow for sports. It's a huge blow for some of the best tennis players of all time that are aging and are nearing the ends of their primes, like Serena Williams and Roger Federer. A missed opportunity for them, but it's obviously not their fault whatsoever. It's the first time the event has been canceled since World War II, back in the 1940s. So, the 134th edition will now be held from June 28th to July 11th of 2021. So, I guess it was supposed to be June 29th to July 12th. And the ATP and WTA tours also extend their suspensions to at least July 13th. I think that's reasonable date for those organizations within tennis. So, yeah, Wimbledon getting canceled is such a big deal. It's a big blow for tennis. I wonder what's going to be the next tennis event we're going to see. Maybe not for a long time. Maybe not till 2021 potentially. But you never know with these things. I'm sure Derek is devastated because he's a huge tennis fan, and sometimes we talk tennis when I have him on the show. So I'm sure he's very devastated with this news. I heard rumors about this yesterday on Twitter, but it didn't become a reality until today when the news broke. Okay, the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers announced that their rosters are free of virus symptoms. That is good news for those players. The Brooklyn Nets had 4 positive tested players. The Lakers had 2, and all 6 of those players are now symptom-free. That's very good. Kevin Durant, obviously, was the biggest name that was revealed positive for testing for the virus. So, there you go with that NBA news. Mark Cuban, no idea when the season will resume. He was on Get Up this morning. He obviously came out and said a few weeks ago that mid-May would be realistic, but now he has no clue. Jeff Van Gundy doesn't think we're going to continue the season. He said that on a radio show recently. But you never know. Maybe Jeff's wrong. Jeff's a smart guy, but maybe he's wrong here. And maybe some of the people that think that we do have a season continued will be correct. JJ Redick was also on Get Up this morning, and he said that he's optimistic that the season will resume. And he said he won't be shocked if they add regular season games for those teams that are still fighting for the postseason. I wish the NHL could do that as well for those teams that we're fighting for the postseason too, because if their seasons resume and go straight to the playoffs, then that is a blow for some teams like the Pelicans in the NBA and like the New York Rangers in the NHL that are very close to the postseason in their respective sports and won't get a chance to try to steal those final playoff spots in the West in the NBA and in the East in the NHL, respectively. And speaking of NBA and the NHL, a city that has 2 respective teams in each sport is Toronto, and they banned public events through the end of June except sports. At first, the tweet said all public events, and then later on, it was reported that sports were an exception. So that is good news for teams like the Raptors, the Maple Leafs, and the Blue Jays. So maybe with that is trending in a good direction, and maybe that's inside information a little bit, whether we'll have baseball, hockey, and basketball. So hopefully that is a good sign going forward that the Toronto ban does not include sports. And something else that got canceled was the Cardinals-Cubs 2-game series that was supposed to be held in London. That should be no surprise. It was reported a few weeks ago that they were going to cancel it and move it to St. Louis. But who knows if we even have a season. So if there is a season, they'll probably have an extra series in St. Louis because the Cardinals were supposed to be the home team in that London series. Now we'll move on to an NFL rumor that I forgot to discuss on yesterday's show, and that is that the Dolphins are going to try to attempt to move up to the top spot and perhaps take Joe Burrow. Cincinnati won't do it. That's all I'm going to say. I think Cincinnati sold on Joe Burrow being the guy. Miami has all that draft capital, so it makes sense that this rumor came out. They have 3 first-rounders this year. They have 2 first-rounders next year. They have 5 picks total in the first 2 rounds. They have 2 second-round picks this year. They can thank the Steelers and the Texans for acquiring 2 talented players, Micah Fitzpatrick and Laramie Tunsil, to make those draft picks work in terms of draft capital and what to possibly do with those picks. And I don't think the Dolphins will pull this off at all. Like I said, I think Cincinnati's sold on Joe Burrow. I think Miami's going to end up trading up to 3, potentially for Tua Tagovailoa. And that means Detroit would, in theory, trade down to 5 and take probably Jeff Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State, there at the number 5 spot. I'm going to have a mock draft tomorrow, but as you guys know, I do not project trades in my mock draft. So it's very realistic that you'll see Tua Tagovailoa going to the Dolphins at 5 and Jeff Okudah going 3rd to the Detroit Lions. So I don't think the Dolphins are going to pull off the trade up to number 1 at all. I think that they could possibly trade up to 3, maybe 2, if the Redskins are dumb enough to move down. I think that the Redskins should stay up 2 and take Chase Young because he'll immensely improve their pass rush. So I think it's very realistic that Detroit trades down. And I think Detroit should trade down because they'll get a lot back. They could very well get that pick that Miami got from the Texans for Laramie Tunsil in this year's draft. So maybe Detroit can come out of it with another first-round pick. So if I'm Detroit, I definitely consider trading out of the 3 spot and going down. There's talk that the Giants may trade down. Gettleman's never traded down as the Giants GM or with the Panthers either. So I just don't see him trading down. He's traded up before, but I've never seen him trade down. But it would be something if the Giants traded down and ended up taking Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker from Clemson. That would be like the ultimate win for the Giants if that was the case. Just like Detroit with Okudah, from them trading down from 3 to 5 and still getting the guy that they want. So we'll see with that. And like I said, no way this happens. I think Cincinnati sold on Burrow, and I think that Miami is just destined to take Tua Tagovailoa, and that is the guy they wanted since last year, and that's when all the talk started coming out that they were going to tank for Tua, and ultimately that didn't work out in their favor initially, but it could very well work in their favor because Tua got injured. Now I want to talk about some classic games in the world of sports that were on and will be re-aired within the next couple days. Last night was Braves-Mets 2001, the Mets' first home game post 9/11. Obviously, the Mike Piazza home run was huge in that game, so that's what that game will always be remembered for. Obviously, the Mets did not make the postseason that year. The Braves won the division that year. The Yankees wound up making the World Series, but lost to the Diamondbacks, obviously, on that walk-off by Luis Gonzalez off of Mariano Rivera. So, Braves-Mets was the classic game on ESPN last night. And tonight, they're re-airing Cavs-Warriors 2016 Game 7, which is one of the best NBA games of the last decade. Obviously, Cleveland sports championship drought was broken. LeBron was obviously the unanimous finals MVP, leading the Cavaliers back from 3-1 down to win that title. Everybody's going to say if Draymond Green didn't get suspended, the Warriors win in 5. That's probably true, but got to give credit to where credit's due sometimes. And Draymond Green, as far as I'm concerned, played in Game 6 and played in Game 7 as well. So the Cavaliers win that title. And now, obviously, both of those teams are not having good seasons. This year, the Cavs are rebuilding. The Warriors are in the year from hell. Steph Curry got hurt. They'll get a top 5 pick in the draft probably. That I could totally see them trading that pick to get a star to replace Kevin Durant, sort of like a star small forward. I could see them packaging that pick in Andrew Wiggins to get something. Maybe I'm trying to think of who could be available for the Warriors to pair up with Curry and Thompson, or maybe a big guy that could be available via trade. You know what? If the Knicks waited a year with Porzingis, that could have been the perfect guy for Golden State. But then again, they have Draymond Green. They play the same position, but they're two completely different players, though. So that would have been an odd fit. My initial theory is that they were going to trade that pick with D'Angelo Russell for Karl Anthony Towns, but that obviously won't happen as they flipped D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins, and Minnesota sent them that extra pick. And that's obviously huge as well. That could be a first-round pick this year, perhaps. And if not, definitely next year it becomes unprotected. So that's another asset that the Warriors have in their treasure trove. So that was a trade that told me that they're going to flip Wiggins and either this year's lottery pick or that Minnesota pick for an unhappy superstar. And I could totally see it being a forward/big guy or maybe a small forward. Or they could package Draymond Green in that deal, potentially. So that's a what if, and that's my favorite subplot of the offseason in the NBA. That extra star that Golden State's going to inevitably pair up with Curry and Thompson. And obviously the Cavs still have Kevin Love on their team, and he was a part of that championship team in 2016. Kyrie Irving is now with the Nets. He hit that big shot that put the Cavs up by 3 points. Nobody talks about that shot. Everyone just talks about how LeBron snapped that streak. But it wasn't just LeBron. Although LeBron was obviously the best player in that series. Kyrie, Kevin Love, they had some solid role players on that team. J.R. Smith was on that team. And a bunch of other solid role players. Richard Jefferson was on that team as that steady veteran. So that's another good veteran that helped the Cavaliers out that year. Played some big crunch time minutes for them as well. So it's funny how things change in 4 years in the NBA. Okay, tonight, 8 o'clock on Fox, The Masked Singer, Super 9, 2-hour show. You have the white tiger, the kangaroo, the turtle, the banana, the kitty, the frog, the night angel, the rhino, and the astronaut. Left. I'm going to talk about each character a little bit and predict who is behind the masks. And at the end of the segment, I'll predict who goes home and gets unmasked tonight, although my predictions will obviously change throughout the night. And in tomorrow's episode of the podcast, I'll probably have some different guesses with some of the characters, and I'll say who I thought would be going home after the 9 performances of tonight's show as well. So the White Tiger, I think, is the easiest one of the contestants. It is somebody that is a strong dude. There's hints about clam shucking. There was a 7 years. There's lockers that obviously hints at sports. There was the big hint of clam shucking. And then 51 was weird. Also, there was a block party. And obviously, the person who I think is under the mask of the White Tiger was good at blocking at his respective position. And then in the third episode of Group A, there was a dartboard, an old phone, which was weird. And then on the Valentine's episode, his clue was "wild about your husband" to Jenny McCarthy, and he'd appreciate it. I think this is Rob Gronkowski. Like I said, it's the easiest one to figure out. I think that it's an upset if it's not Rob Gronkowski. That would be the biggest shock of all if the Tiger is not Rob Gronkowski. That would be insane. Okay, the Turtle. Somebody that hinted about track and field, a football field, broke out with a group of guys, which made me think a boy bander. There are also hints about a bunny. There was a bunny in there, which was weird. There was a lot of rock hints. There was a school and more band hints. And also, there was back to the football field in the classroom. But from a voice standpoint, I think this is former or current member of the Backstreet Boys, AJ McLean. I initially thought at one point it'd be Kevin Richardson, but I'm like, who sings the line of "Oh my God, we're back again" in Backstreet's Back? Or the song's actually called Everybody. And I looked and it was AJ McLean. So there I have it. It sounds a lot like AJ. Other possibilities for this costume could be Kevin Richardson, Donnie Wahlberg. That would be the funniest outcome if it was Donnie, because obviously that is the husband of Jenny McCarthy, and I'd love to see her reaction if Donnie was ever on the show. And obviously she thought the rabbit was her own husband a few seasons ago in season 1, and it turned out that it was Joey Fatone, who's ironically good friends with Donnie. Joey McIntyre, I won't be surprised if it's him, because there is a hint referring to New Kids on the Block. Jesse McCartney was a fan guess that I noticed for the Turtle. That's just not his personality, and I don't think that's his voice. To me, that's AJ McLean. And Zac Efron was Nicole Scherzinger's guess. Other guesses, Billy Joe Armstrong. The worst guess I've seen for the Turtle was Darius Rucker, which was ridiculous. And some other guesses for the Turtle: Nick Lachey, Hunter Hayes, Jaden Smith, Kevin Jonas. So, I'm very interested to see who Turtle is for sure. And the last member of Group A that made the Super 9 was the Kangaroo. I think this is the best singer of that trio. There is hints about I'm a Survivor, which had me thinking Kelly Rowland right away. Somebody that has been through a lot in her life and has recovered from it because she's been hinting at bouncing back. Right now, I think this is famous boxer, female boxer, Ronda Rousey. And I think that everyone's going to be blown away once she gets unmasked, which will probably not be for a while because she obviously is very, very talented. I'd be surprised if she went home early in the Super 9. Other guesses by the judges were Jordan Sparks, Iggy Azalea. It'd be interesting if it was Iggy Azalea. I just don't think so. Nicole Scherzinger thought Kelly Rowland. I thought Kelly Rowland at one point. Tatiana Ali, that would be interesting because Layla was on season 2. Candace Parker, I do not think it's Candace Parker at all, the WNBA player. And then Ken Jeong guest Gabrielle Union in the second episode of season 3. Obviously the wife of Dwayne Wade. Jenny McCarthy kept her Jordan Sparks guess. Ken Jeong said Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, which I don't see that either. All right, Group B. The Frog. This is someone that's very entertaining. Had hints about being old school. There's a city vibes. A Hollywood star. And there were hints about L.A. I initially thought this was Kevin Hart because of his personality and whatnot. But I have somebody different in mind. And that is current host of America's Funniest Home Videos and Catch 21, Alfonso Ribeiro. I don't feel strongly about this. I think that it still could be Kevin Hart. Robin Thicke and T-Pain thought it was Amaria. Ken Jeong guessed Tommy Davison. And that was in the third episode of Group B. Jenny McCarthy also guessed Alfonso Ribeiro, so that's interesting. Ken Jeong guessed Kevin Hart. And other judge guesses were Ray J by Nicole Scherzinger, Carl Lewis by Ken Jeong, and Michael Johnson by Jenny McCarthy. And that was in the first episode of Group B. Kitty. This is the toughest one for me in terms of a guess. This is somebody that I think is talented. There's hints about Pirates of the Caribbean, and there are hints about pointing towards Harry Potter, which I thought was interesting. There was a telescope. Somebody that has started from scratch. There's a lot of fashion in there. There is a red robe, which referred to possibly Little Red Riding Hood, which I thought was weird. There's a piano. And there was some vibes about scary things and scary movies. This is somebody that could be an actress or a movie director. But from a vocal standpoint, I was getting vibes of Amy Lee, the former or the current lead singer of Evanescence. And obviously she plays really good piano, so that could be a possible tie. Ken Jeong guessed Kristen Bell. Jenny McCarthy guessed Haley Duff. T-Pain guessed Christina Ricci. I think that was a solid guess by T-Pain, the episode that he was on. The second episode of Group B, Jenny McCarthy guessed Millie Bobby Brown. Gabriel Iglesias guessed Amanda Seyfried, which was a solid guess. Ken Jeong thought Sarah Hyland at one point. I initially did think this was Kelly Clarkson, but she is way too skinny to be Kelly Clarkson. I thought that from a vocal standpoint, not from a clue standpoint. And then Nicole Scherzinger in the first episode of Group B thought Julianne Hough and Paris Hilton. And Ken Jeong suggested Nicole Richie. And then the last singer from this group to make the top 9 was the Banana. I'm very fascinated for the Banana. There's a lot of country vibes, the South. Somebody suggesting at a, you would think it's a first rodeo, a cowboy hat. I initially thought Keith Urban, but I don't think it's Keith Urban. Jenny McCarthy thought Ben Engblom. Nicole thought Ed Helms. And I think the most fascinating guess, and I don't think it's this person, but there are some clues that made Robin Thicke guess Darius Rucker. There was a hoot and there was a blowfish. Hootie and the blowfish, Darius Rucker. So I do not think it's Darius, but it would be something if it was Darius, because he is certainly somebody, the banana in my mind is somebody that's throwing off his voice. And I certainly am not getting Darius Rucker vibes. That would be hilarious if it was Darius. Because, it's not, the voice doesn't match up. Some of the clues have. And there's another clue in the second Group B episode that it said, "Hold my hand." And obviously that is a Hootie and the Blowfish song. Ken Jeong in the second Group B episode thought it was Larry the Cable Guy. Nicole thought Ed Helm. Gabriel Iglesias thought Billy Bob Thornton. And in the third Group B episode, there's some NASCAR vibes. I thought potentially Darrell Waltrip. Jenny McCarthy thought Michael Andretti. Ken Jeong stuck with his Larry the Cable Guy guess. Nicole had a ridiculous guess of Brad Paisley. T-Pain thought Johnny Knoxville. In the third episode, there's hints about being a role model and hinted at going through a lot. Hinted at having not a great memory. Back to the football stadium, track and field. 2 daughters. I have a ridiculous guess for this, and this is somebody that had a hint about losing a family member, and someone that lost a family member recently, or within the last couple of years, is Howard Stern. Could you imagine if this was Howard Stern? I think it could very well be Howard Stern. There are some hints, like the loss of a family member, that made me think that, and he's somebody that can absolutely throw off his voice a little bit. And personally, I was getting some vibes of him when he performed "Little Less Conversation, a Little More Action." It kind of, I was getting vibes of him a little bit. So I think that is my most ridiculous guess of these 9, but I'm going to roll with Howard Stern for now. And of Group C, from these last couple weeks, the Night Angel, I think, is the best contestant of the Super 9. I think she's going to win the competition. She reminds me a little bit of Lion from Season 1. I think this is Kelly Rowland. There was hints about I'm a Survivor. She said Destiny a couple times. And she said, "Say my name," or said my name. And there's the song "Say My Name." So that has me stuck on Kelly Rowland. Although last week she sounded a little bit like Beyonce. I'm not saying it's Beyonce, but she performed like Beyonce last week. And I think that right now that it's Kelly Rowland. I initially thought that this was Fergie, because it's somebody that hasn't been around in a while, like Kelly Rowland. There's hints about night vision. There's a number 4, a key with the number 2 on it, a magic stick. Jenny guessed Monica in the first Group C episode. Nicole guessed Lil' Kim. Robin guessed Taylor Dane. The second episode of Group C, there's hints about a city, a broken heart. And that's where Built an Empire and Destiny were thrown out as clues, and that made me thinking Kelly Rowland after the second Group C episode. Jenny McCarthy said Regina King. Joel McHale said Jessica Simpson, and Nicole Scherzinger guessed Taraji P. Henson. And then last week, Nicole had the same guess of Taraji P. Henson. Will Arnett was a guest judge last week. He's the host of Lego Masters. He said Janet Jackson and Mayim Bialik. And Jenny McCarthy said Toni Braxton. Astronaut. This is funny. I said that people are throwing out Jesse McCartney for the turtle. I think it's more likely he's the astronaut than the turtle. I was getting Jesse McCartney vibes these first few weeks of Group C, and then last week there was a hint about Only Human. That's a song by the Jonas Brothers. I think this could very well be Kevin Jonas, and I think it'd be big time if this was Kevin Jonas. The first Group C episode, there was hints about him starting young and he's hungry for a chance. And the clues and the voice made me think Jesse McCartney. Ken Jeong thought Adam Levine or Josh Hutcherson. Nicole Scherzinger said Zac Efron. The second Group C episode hinted about a circle of life, a fresh start, sign language. There was balloons in the package. I still was stuck on Jesse McCartney. Ken Jeong had a nice guess of Donald Glover. Obviously, he played Simba in the remake of The Lion King, the live-action version, and obviously Circle of Life was a hint, so that's not bad. Joel McHale thought Corey Feldman, and Robin Thicke thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and that was his guess again in the last episode. Ken Jeong switched his guess to Eddie Vedder, and Will Arnett thought it was Jesse Chazé from the Backstreet Boys. Obviously, the Only Human really threw me off a little bit. And then there's Bye Bye Bye, which is a song by NSYNC, so maybe it is JC Chazé. Maybe. And then the last singer that moved on to the Super 9 was Rhino. There was hints about him having gone through a lot. A jungle giant. There was a guitar. Southern vibes. Someone that was ready to soar again. A leap of faith. And that leap of faith hint somebody that's religious. And somebody that was really pulling some strings with religion in terms of moves and things he would do on the field was obviously Tim Tebow. So that's who I currently think it is. At one point I thought this was A-Rod because of the voice. And then the second week of Group C, because of the disguised voice and some hints at referring to the South, I was thinking Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning also had some ups and downs in his life. He had his neck surgeries and then ended up getting cut by the Colts and going to the Broncos. There was hints about a city, defying gravity, tennis. And then last week there were hints about 3 quarters. So that to me is a hint of a quarterback. There's surfing. I think Tim Tebow's big into that. Somebody that's received criticism, Tim Tebow. There was a hint of heart on your sleeve. Obviously, that is a lyric line in the song Beautiful Crazy by Luke Combs. No way do I think it's Luke Combs. This is someone that's obviously an athlete, and I think it is Tim Tebow. So again, my guesses for this episode of The Masked Singer: the White Tiger, Rob Gronkowski; the Kangaroo, Ronda Rousey; the Turtle, AJ McLean; Banana, Howard Stern; Kitty, Amy Lee; Frog, Alfonso Ribeiro; Night Angel, Kelly Rowland; Rhino, Tim Tebow; Astronaut, Kevin Jonas. And the one who I think is getting voted off tonight, I think Gronk goes home. I think White Tiger goes home. But I won't be shocked if it's Rhino and it ends up being Tim Tebow. Now I'm going to do my 2018 MLB redraft. This turned out to be a pretty loaded draft as of right now, but you never know how these prospects will pan out. But, geez, as of right now, this looks like a loaded draft. So, without further ado, here we go. Number 1, Detroit Tigers, Casey Mize, the pitcher. No do-over here as the Tigers go with their guy in Mize. He's somebody that has really put himself in a good position to go to the big leagues as soon as 2020 if we have a season. And that was the actual pick by the Tigers as well. Number 2, San Francisco Giants, Jared Kelenic. So in the redo, they have taken Kelenic, who is an up-and-coming prospect. Obviously, the Mets drafted him, and they traded him away in the package that netted them Robinson Cano and the closer, Diaz, from Seattle. This is going to turn out to be a big win for the Mariners, I think. And could you imagine if San Francisco drafted him? Although their farm system's better than it was a few years ago with a couple high picks and a couple look-like hits. But imagine Kelenic in that system. Number 3, Philadelphia Phillies, Joey Bart, the catcher. Hey, maybe if they drafted Joey Bart, they wouldn't have traded some assets to get JT Realmuto, who is a free agent at the end of the year. So, they go with Joey Bart here. Really good prospect, currently advanced today. His ETA is 2020, so he could be in the big leagues at the end of the season if we have a season. Or most likely 2021. The 14th overall prospect on MLB.com. Obviously, Mize is 7th, Kelenic 11th. The top prospect in the Giant system, obviously. The replacement long-term for Buster Posey. Number 4, Chicago White Sox, Alec Boehm. Currently on the Phillies system, the number 1 Phillies prospect in Double-A. He could be in the big leagues this year. This is the third baseman of the future of the Phillies. There's a reason why they didn't go out and sign Anthony Rendon or trade for Chris Bryant or Nolan Arenado. They're high on Boehm, and it looks like a good decision by the Phillies. And I think that this could be a franchise player for them down the road. Number 5, Cincinnati Reds, Grayson Rodriguez. He's the number 36 overall prospect, currently in the Orioles system. Number 2 guy in the Orioles system behind the catcher they took number 1 overall last year, in Adley Rutschman, ETA 2022. The Reds actually took Jonathan India, who is looking like a little bit of a disappointment right now. So Grayson Rodriguez would have been a nice guy to have in their system from a pitching standpoint, although they have a good pitching prospect in Hunter Green, and they have good pitching on their roster right now. So imagine if they had Rodriguez. 6, New York Mets, Logan Gilbert. He's the number 38 overall prospect at MLB.com, Double-A, number 3 in the Mariners system. His ETA's this year. That would have been a nice pick for the Mets, considering that Noah Syndergaard's out for the season with Tommy John surgery. And this is all assuming we have a season, by the way. I just don't want to keep repeating myself saying that. And they ended up taking Jared Kelenic, who I have number 2 in the redraft, who's obviously the top Mariners prospect that the Mets dealt away in the Cano-Diaz deal. 7th, San Diego Padres, Nick Madrigal. He's the number 40 prospect on MLB.com, currently Double-A, could be in the big leagues this year. Number 4 in the White Sox loaded system. He would have been a nice double play mate with Fernando Tatis, just saying. Number 8, the Atlanta Braves, Tariq Skubal, number 46th overall, currently in Double-A, number 4 in the Detroit system. He was a 9th round pick, which is crazy. ETA 2021. This was a steal of a pick by the Tigers in the draft 2 years ago. The Braves actually took Carter Stewart, who did not sign. Padres ended up taking Ryan Weathers, by the way. That really hasn't worked out yet for them in terms of who's ahead of him in all the rankings and whatnot. So, yeah, the Braves take Skubal at number 8, and he certainly would have helped the Braves. 9th, Oakland Athletics. Nolan Gorman, 47th overall prospect on MLB.com, currently in advanced day. Number 2 in the Cardinal system, ETA 2022. He's somebody that's a third baseman. Maybe they could have used him in a package to trade for a starting pitcher to go Sean Manaea. They currently have Matt Chapman manning third base, who's obviously one of the better third basemen in Major League Baseball. In this draft, they took Kyler Murray, who's obviously the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, so that was a miss for the Athletics as he decided to play NFL, which looks like the right decision. Number 10, Pittsburgh Pirates. Alec Thomas, number 49th overall prospect, currently advanced day. Number 2 in the Arizona Diamondbacks system, ETA 2022. Second round pick of the Diamondbacks, an outfielder. In this draft, they actually took Travis Swaggerty. He's not a bad player, but Alec Thomas is really an up-and-coming guy. I think there's a chance that the Diamondbacks can deal Alec Thomas away in a trade package. He certainly that would have been a nice building block for the Pirates going forward. Just saying. Number 11, Baltimore Orioles. Nico Horner, the number 51 overall prospect on MLB.com. Finished last year in the big leagues, had a couple homers with the Cubs. With Grayson Rodriguez off the board, they go with Horner. He certainly would have been a nice building block for the O's. Although Rodriguez is higher perceived and ranked in the MLB.com rankings. And I think Rodriguez has a bright future ahead of him, as I do think with Horner. But yeah, Horner would have been a nice start for the Orioles in terms of position player talent. Although they have some in their minor league system, which we'll get to in future redrafts. And then I'm going to do a prospect ranking show before the season starts with each team. Number 12, Toronto Blue Jays. They take Matthew Liberatore, the number 58 overall prospect, currently advanced day, number 3 in the Cardinal system, ETA 2022. He was a first-round pick by the Rays. Rays dealt him to Tampa Bay for Jose Martinez. I think this is a solid deal for both sides. I think Liberatore is somebody that could very well be a trade asset for the Cardinals. They have some nice young pitching, but I think this asset could very well be a keeper for the Cards. He certainly would have been a nice asset to have for the Blue Jays in terms of pitching prospects, although they have some good pitching prospects right now. Number 13, Miami Marlins. Brady Singer, number 59 overall on MLB.com, currently in AA, ETA this season. A steal of a second-round pick for the Royals. He certainly would be a good asset to have in the Marlins system, although they have Sixto Sanchez and some other good pitching prospects in their system. They took Connor Scott in this draft, someone who really hasn't made all that much progress. I'd rather have Brady Singer than him, who could have helped the Marlins this season and will certainly help the Royals in this season and going forward. Number 14, the Seattle Mariners. Daniel Lynch, number 61 overall prospect, currently advanced day. Number 3 in the Royal system is ETA 2021. Lynch is someone else that the Royals stole in the draft, and with Logan Gilbert off the board, the Mariners go with Lynch, who would have been a nice person to have. He's not as good as Gilbert in my mind, but these two do have similar ceilings, though. But Gilbert's the better prospect right now. So that wouldn't have been a bad choice for Seattle. 15, Texas Rangers. Josiah Gray, number 67 overall, currently in AA, number 3 prospect with the Dodgers, ETA this year. He's somebody that was drafted by the Reds and then was dealt to the Dodgers in the Yasiel Puig-Matt Kemp salary dump trade. Rangers took Cole Winn in the spot in the actual draft. But I'd rather have Gray than Cole Winn right now. So that would have been a nice have for the Rangers and their system for pitching. And they do have a good rotation in the big leagues right now. Corey Kluber, Mike Minor, Lance Lynn. Josiah Gray would have been a nice back-end guy for Texas. Number 16, Tampa Bay Rays. Xavier Edwards, number 72 overall, currently advanced A, the number 4 Rays prospect, ETA 2022. It's funny how things work out sometimes. This was a Padres draft pick who they dealt away with Hunter Renfroe in that deal that sent Tommy Pham to the Padres. That's another good asset that the Rays have that they could flip into something down the road, maybe a good reliever or a good bat so they could compete with the Yankees in the American League East. They took Matthew Liberatore in this spot, who I have 12th in this redraft. Number 17, the Los Angeles Angels. Jordan Groshans, number 75 overall in A-ball. Number 2, Blue Jays prospect, ETA 2022, who's a shortstop, very solid player. So the Blue Jays didn't do a bad job with their selection with Groshans, but I have them taking Liberatore in the redraft. Jordan Adams was the Angels' pick here. Adams is somebody that has some upside, but really is disappointed a little bit relative to expectations. Groshans is somebody that the Angels could have in theory packaged in a deal down the road because they have Andrelton Simmons manning shortstop right now. Number 18, the Kansas City Royals. Tristan Casas. Number 77 overall, currently in advanced A. Number 2, Red Sox prospect behind Jeter Downs. ETA 2022. This is somebody that's up and coming. This would have been a nice asset for the Royals to have. Their first baseman right now, I believe, is Ryan O'Hearn, who showed flashes last year, but I think Casas has more upside, and he would have been a nice have in their system, as Brady Singer went 13 in my redraft, and that's who they had 18th. Actually, it was a first-round pick, not a second-round pick. I'm thinking of somebody else that the Royals drafted that was a second-rounder. So that was my bad when I said that Brady Singer was a second-rounder. 19th, St. Louis Cardinals. Brennan Davis, number 78 overall, currently in A-ball. Number 3, Cubs prospect, ETA 2022. He's an outfielder. I believe it was a compensatory pick with Gorman off the board. The Cards go with Davis, who have a lot of outfielders in terms of on their current roster and in the minors. So he probably would have been a trade piece. 20th, Minnesota Twins. Trevor Lawrence, number 81 overall, currently in AA. Number 3, Twins prospect, ETA 2021. So no regrets there on that pick. I think that Lawrence will be a good major leaguer, a good starter, possible all-star. Number 21, Milwaukee Brewers. Simeon Woods Richardson, currently advanced A, to number 98 overall prospect on MLB.com. Number 3 in the Blue Jays system, ETA 2021. He was drafted by the Mets in, I believe, the second round. He was dealt in the package that netted the Mets Marcus Stroman. So the Blue Jays didn't get a bad return for Marcus Stroman, it looks like, with Woods Richardson and Anthony Kay. He would have been a nice pick for the Brewers. They need pitching badly in their system. So they end up in the redraft with Richardson. He would have been a great asset for them, for sure. And in the actual draft, they took Bryce Terang, the shortstop. Number 22, Colorado Rockies, Seth Beer. The outfielder, he was drafted by the Astros in the first round. He's the number 12 Diamondbacks prospect. That just shows how deep the Diamondbacks system is. Currently in Double-A, he'd be in the big leagues this year. If we have a season, I certainly think that this is a dark horse candidate for the National League Rookie of the Year. And I think the Diamondbacks really panned out well in that Astros trade that sent Zach Greinke off to Houston. Ryan Rollison was the pick here for the Rockies. Imagine Seth Beer in Coors Field. He'd be like a 40 home run guy there. He could very well be a 40 homer guy in the big leagues, regardless of where he plays. All right, 23, the New York Yankees, Jackson Kowar. This was the second round pick I was thinking of from the Royals. He's the number 4th ranked prospect in the Royal system, currently Double-A ETA 2020. With some of the injuries the Yankees are dealing with and the free agents to be, such as Masahiro Tanaka and James Paxton, this would have been an excellent pick for the Yankees. He would have come in and potentially be a back end of the rotation guy with Garrett Cole and Luis Severino in the front. And they drafted Clark Schmidt a few years ago. He's somebody that's up and coming as a prospect and will probably be in their rotation in 2021. With pending possible free agent departures of James Paxton and Masahiro Tanaka. Although I think there's a chance they bring one of them back. I wouldn't rule that out, especially Tanaka. I think Tanaka is more likely to be back as a Yankee than Paxton, but I could be wrong. But Kowar certainly would have been a nice pick for the Yankees, who took Anthony Siegler here, who hasn't really panned out yet. The Chicago Cubs at 24 take Jonathan India, number 3 Reds prospect, currently in Double-A ETA 2021. They took Nico Horner here, who goes a couple spots higher at number 11. Currently in the big league, so the Cubs stole Nico Horner there. And Jonathan India is somebody that is still a promising prospect. There's a lot of good prospects. And the top 100 is really solid, and I think that India can sneak his way back in there with a couple of these guys potentially graduating that are in the top 100 overall. So Jonathan India, in theory, would have been a great pick for the Cubs because obviously Chris Bryant's a free agent after the 2021 season, and India would have been the ideal replacement. So that would have been a great selection for the Chicago Cubs. 25, Arizona Diamondbacks, Shane McClanahan. He's number 7 in the Rays system, currently in Double-A ETA 2021. He would have been a nice add in the Diamondback system. They are pretty loaded in their system with J.B. Bukowskis and obviously the kid that they traded Jazz Chisholm for, Zach Gallen, who was in their rotation at the end of the season and showed promise with both the D-backs and the Marlins. 26, the Boston Red Sox. And by the way, the Diamondbacks took Matt McLean there, who didn't sign. So Boston at 26, Travis Swaggerty. He obviously was a top 10 pick by the Pirates. Number 6 in the Pirate system, currently advanced to ETA 2021. The Sox took Tristan Casas there, who I have 18th in the redraft. So with him off the board, they go with the high upside outfielder with Swaggerty. He would have been a good pick, considering that Mookie Betts is no longer on this team. Number 27, Washington Nationals, Ryan Rollison. Number 2 pitching, the prospect, number 2 ranked prospect for the Rockies, the top pitching prospect in the Rockies system. Currently in Advanced A, ETA 2021. He's further along than Mason Denneberg, who they selected in the spot. Denneberg obviously was dealing with a lot of injuries, so that's not really likely to pan out, although I think Rollison's more likely to pan out, and he would be a solid pick here, 27 for the Nats. 28, the Houston Astros. Ryan Weathers, the number 9th ranked prospect in the Padres system, currently in A-ball, ETA 2022. Obviously, he was a top 10 pick in this draft. Not really living up to expectations, but I think he's somebody that still has a chance to succeed. The Astros took Seth Beer in this spot, who I have at 22, who they obviously dull away to Arizona for Greinke. Number 29, the Cleveland Indians. Jordan Adams. He's the number 3 Angels prospect, currently advanced A, ETA 2022. Somebody that has eye upside, but is taking time with his development. Hasn't really lived up to expectations either. Obviously, it was the Angels pick in this draft. The Indians took Bo Naylor, the catcher, in this draft, who I still think has a chance to be solid for the Indians down the road. And number 30, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bryce Terang. He's the number 1 prospect in the Brewers system, currently advanced ATA 2022. He was in the top 100 last year, but his stock has dropped a little bit. I still think the Brewers look at him as the possible shortstop of the future. He would have been a nice asset to have for the Dodgers, and maybe he is in that Mookie Betts deal. But obviously Jeter Downs is the better prospect of the two players. So there we go. And that is my 2018 MLB redraft. And by the way, the Dodgers took JT Ginn in that spot, the pitcher, who ended up not signing. Alrighty. Now I'm going to do my top 10 MLB games of 2019. So, without further ado, here we go. Honorable mentions. Mike Fiers' no-hitter against the Reds. Cardinals-Cubs on the Saturday of the Kentucky Derby, where the Cubs came back from a pretty big deficit to beat the Cardinals. So that was a really solid game. Dodgers-Brewers, where Eric Thames hit a 3-run homer off of Kenley Jansen to tie the game. Then Cody Bellinger hit the go-ahead homer. Athletics-Astros, Altuve had the walk-off walk. Dodgers-Padres, Hunter Renfroe walk-off grand slam. Cubs-Phillies, Bryce Harper walk-off grand slam. Red Sox-Orioles, Jackie Bradley Jr. catching extra innings to rob the Orioles of a game-tying home run. So, here's my top 10 games of the 2019 calendar year. Number 10, Cardinals-Brewers. This was very early in the season. I believe this was March 31st. Christian Yelich had a 2-run walk-off double as the Brewers came back to defeat the Cardinals. 9, World Series Game 7, Nationals-Astros. Obviously, the Astros had the lead 2-0, and A.J. Hinch refuses to put Garrett Cole in the game. Nationals come back and defeat the Astros 6-2 to break the DC, or that drought that they had, but it's the first title in Nationals history. So that was a drought that they technically broke there. Number 8, Brewers-Nationals regular season game. High-scoring affair. 15-14, Brewers won. Number 7, Cardinals-Cubs in September. The Cubs had an 8-7 lead, and the Cardinals scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th. I believe it was 2 home runs off of Craig Kimbrell to take the lead and end up winning that game. Number 6, Yankees-Twins. I believe this was the best regular season game of 2019. Obviously, the game ended on a brilliant catch by Aaron Hicks, the ex-Twin, who robbed the Twins of a walk-off win. It would have, I think, would have been a walk-off bases clearing double or triple. But that was an excellent catch by Aaron Hicks to save the Yankees in that game. That was, I think, the best regular season game of that year. And the rest of them are playoff games on the list. Spoiler alert. Number 5, Brewers-Nationals wildcard game. Obviously, the Nationals come from behind. This was the start of their championship run in the postseason. The Brewers certainly missed Christian Yelich in that game. Obviously, the right fielder that replaced him, the ball went by him as the Nationals took the lead in that game. Obviously, if that was Christian Yelich there, the ball probably does not go by him. The Brewers probably win that game if Christian Yelich is healthy in that game. Fourth, Braves-Cardinals game 4. This was a walk-off win for the Cardinals to keep their season alive. I believe the Braves came from behind and tied it in the 8th inning, and this went to extras, and this was on a walk-off sac fly by Yadier Molina. Number 3, Yankees-Astros game 2, walk-off home run by Carlos Correa. Good pitching in this game by both sides. Justin Verlander pitched for the Tigers in that game. Aaron Judge hit a home run off of Verlander. For the Yankees in that game, I believe they went with the opener in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think Chad Green pitched in that game. And then they went to their bullpen, and Jay Happ ended up giving up the homer to Correa. And number 2, Nationals-Dodgers game 5. The Nationals come from behind from 3-0 down. Clayton Kershaw in the game. Take advantage of some miscues by Dave Roberts in that Dodgers bullpen with his decision-making. I believe Kenley Jansen did see the game, but I believe he did give up a run or 2 in this game. But obviously, they came from behind and won this game, and it was another disappointing ending to a season for the Dodgers, and it really tarnished the Clayton Kershaw legacy a little bit in that game. And number 1 game of 2019, Yankees-Astros, Game 6, walk-off homer, Jose Altuve to send the Astros to their second World Series in 3 seasons. Off of Aroldis Chapman. Obviously, the Astros cheated in that series. Well, I would think so. And I think that they cheated that season and the 2017 and 18 seasons too. And I obviously think they cheated here because in the highlight videos of Altuve around the bases, he's mouthing, "Don't take my jersey off," and obviously that is suspicious to where I think there's buzzers in the jerseys. So, and then obviously before he did his interview with Ken Rosenthal of Fox, he got changed, and that is because Buster Olney questioned him in an interview and said that he had a tattoo, which is, I think, BS. But yeah, that was a great game. Obviously, the Yankees were down 4-2 in the 9th inning. Nobody remembers this, but DJ LeMahieu hit a Oppo Field game-tying home run to tie it up at 4, and then Altuve in the bottom of the 9th off of Chapman wins it for the Astros to send them to the World Series for the second time in 3 seasons. Well, that was a long podcast today, so I'll be back tomorrow recapping any news that happens within the next 24 hours or so. I'll have my 2018 NBA redraft, top NBA games of 2019, NFL mock draft, and like I said, any other news that breaks in the world of sports or pop culture. And we'll recap The Masked Singer as well from tonight. I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.